Hello, everyone, and welcome to Profiles in Risk. I am your host, Nick Lamparelli. We have a very special episode for you this time around. I am joined by Carly Burnham, who's going to be my co-host, and it's always a pleasure to have you, Carly.
Thank you, Nick. Good to be here.
And on this episode, I am pleased to introduce Rob Galbraith. Rob has written a book, and this entire episode is going to be talking about the book itself and a whole bunch of other things that went into it. Rob, welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Carly. Appreciate it. Always great to be with you.
Awesome. Rob, you wrote a book. We're announcing it to the world. You've actually announced it at InsurTech Connect, so my heart's broken that I'm not going to be the one that's going to officially announce it. But let's start off right away. What's the name of the book?
The name of the book is The End of Insurance as We Know It. And it's really, there's a lot going on in our world. And you mentioned InsurTech Connect, third year of that event, 6,000 attendees. So it was a perfect place to announce the book. Our world is changing, and it's going to be confusing for a lot of us, and there's a lot to sort out, and that's what the book's about.
Okay, so let's go into some of the backstory. A lot has changed. A lot is changing. The world is rapidly evolving. Why did you write the book? You know, there's change. There's a lot of blogs being written about it. I do a podcast on it. Why did you feel the need to write the book?
There's a lot of great information out there, and I get that question all the time, Nick, with so many articles and blog posts and social media and podcasts, yours and others. And it's all true. All the information out there is terrific. There's a lot of good content, but it's not all brought together in one place. It's not all synthesized, and doesn't really give you a roadmap. It's really confusing if you're just starting out in this space, whether you're an established player that's trying to understand what this insurtech world is all about, or whether you're a venture capitalist or a startup that really doesn't know anything about the insurance world, but is looking to become part of it, whether that's to collaborate and work with traditional players and try to bring them into the 21st century, or whether you're looking to compete. You found either a niche market that's being underserved, or you're looking to take the big folks on head on, regardless of what your strategy is. I think there's a lot of folks that would benefit from synthesizing kind of all the information that's out there, and it'll make you more informed, not just after reading the book, but actually a better consumer of all those other sources of information going forward.
Good. Love the idea. So let's talk about what's in it. Let's put some meat on this bone. The book is broken up into sections. Let's talk about what the reader can expect once they get your book.
Yeah, so it's broken up into 4 parts. The first part is essentially what's wrong with insurance today. For those of us that are in the insurance industry, you probably have a lot of thoughts on what's wrong. We know that our industry is over 300 years old, and we've changed some, but we're slow to change. Tony Cañas always says, the reason insurance companies and folks in the insurance ecosystem are conservative is because all the risk takers have failed out and have gone out of business. And so it's really the conservative ones that are left standing over the course of time. And there's some truth to that. But we know that we've got a lot of issues as an industry. Insurance is a fairly expensive product. If you think about discretionary products that we all buy, we pay, for rent or mortgages, pay for a car, pay for utilities, keep the lights on, keep the water running. Insurance is also one of those major household expenses every month. And if you don't have a claim, you don't necessarily see a lot of benefit for that money that you're spending. It's kind of a forced savings or forced spending, if you will. And also, it's too confusing, right? When you try to use the product, you do have that claim that you're trying to file. Oftentimes it's not covered, whether that's because it's an uncovered peril like flood, which you're very, very familiar with, Nick, or maybe you haven't met your deductible, or all sorts of different reasons why a claim may not be a covered loss. And again, as insurance professionals, we understand that it's a contract. Bill Wilson wrote the last book for insurance nerds, When Words Collide, that was really all about policies and interpretation. And he's got this, wonderful acronym, RFTP. Read the fine print, or read the
FM
policy. And so it is. It's a very complicated product. It's a complicated product to understand, and it costs quite a bit. It doesn't cover all the perils that we would want to cover. It doesn't cover everybody that we would want to have covered by insurance. So the second part of the book really kind of focuses on, okay, so we're insurance and we have all these problems, some of which are fairly large and well known in the industry. Well, why hasn't Silicon Valley disrupted us all out of a job yet? And I start with an anecdote of a gentleman by the name of Victor, I call him in the book, and he came to a CBCU annual meeting, was a friend of Tony's, and
Is he
introduced
real?
me to.
Is there really a guy
He's a
named
real
Victor?
person.
He's
Yeah.
real, yeah.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
Victor, but he's a real guy, and he basically said, you're going to be out of a job next year. Okay, nice to meet you too, Victor. And, that was 6 or 7 years ago. I still have a job, and I don't think my job's going away anytime soon. So, what is it about insurance? And I know a lot of industries think, well, we won't be disrupted by technology. We won't be the ones that are put out of business. So certainly it's kind of a lot of folks have made that mistake of thinking that they're immune from technological change, but insurance is different. It is more complicated. And so from a VC startup world, I think they need to understand some very basics about our industry in order to disrupt it. The third part of the book is really about all the technology that we're hearing in some of those articles and podcasts we've talked about: blockchain, AI, telematics, smart home, Internet of Things. What are all these things? And I don't do a deep dive into how the actual technology works. I think there's a lot of good information that's already out there. But what is the technology as an overview? Kind of give a summary, and how could it help solve some of those problems that we articulated in part one of the book, that will make insurance better and move us into the 21st century fully. And then the fourth part of the book is really a little bit of a crystal ball, right? What could be? What are some possibilities for this technology, for disruption in our industry? I have some thoughts on that, but it's really meant as a conversation starter. I'd love to have feedback from readers and other folks that kind of have their own thoughts and really start a conversation. And it's really about bridging the gap. Today, when I talk to insurance folks, I don't think they realize the breadth of technological change and how it can impact our industry. And on the VC and the startup world and the tech world, I don't think they understand the complexity of insurance. And I really hope to bring both of those groups together. I hope they leave after reading the book better educated about the industry. And again, regardless of what seat they sit in and what they hope to accomplish, I hope that we kind of move the ball forward as an industry and ultimately better serve our customers.
Yeah, you touched on those two audiences. They would seem like proper targets, considering the breadth of the material that you're going into. It gets really deep into technology, but also just the business model itself, like the deep meaning of the product and the problem it tries to solve, and interweaving technology. I would guess that VCs would be an appropriate target, executives at insurance companies. How far down the insurance food chain do you think a reader, what kind of reader could we expect would get something out of this?
I think it really applies all the way down. Certainly, if you're a C-suite executive of an insurance company, or you're a founder or a VC, I think there's a lot of value in the book. And the book's really intended to be read on a plane ride, maybe a little bit long plane ride, but something that is dense enough to bring some meaning, but quick enough to digest in half a day. And something that you can certainly go back to kind of as a reference or to reread some of the material. But certainly, I was just at Insurance Nerds Day this past weekend in Chicago, talking to young people that are risk management folks that are looking to get into our industry. And I would highly recommend the book for them as well. The industry is going to be changing a ton in the next 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades as they enter. And so kind of knowing what the landscape is today and where it might be going, I think could be enormously beneficial. So even those just starting their career, and again, anywhere in between, mid-career, late career, just starting out. And my focus is really on personal lines because that's where a lot of the innovation is. But I think there's definitely relevance for smart commercial. There's definitely folks in agent and broker community. claims community, other businesses that sell to insurance companies, or maybe kind of agnostic between selling to a traditional carrier, a traditional entity, and a startup. So there's a lot of value in there, I think, for a wide variety of audiences. And I encourage folks to read it, read some of the reviews and feedback as when it gets released and kind of comes back. And again, I think it's intended as a fairly quick and thorough overview, not exhaustive, not comprehensive, but will certainly set you on your way towards the path of really understanding how technology is going to disrupt us over the next decade and beyond.
Yeah. So Carly, this is book number 3 in the
It is.
Insurance Nerd Suite.
Yes.
I know we're like incredibly proud of that. Could you talk a little bit about the process of how did this happen? How did this marriage happen? And what are some of your thoughts and feelings regarding the process to write this book?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to be publishing our third book. I've known Rob a long time now, probably 4-5 years. We met through the CPCU Society. And when we announced that we were publishing Bill's book, shortly afterwards, I think Rob and I were at one of the CPCU events, and he caught up with me and said, I've been thinking that I might want to write a book, and I have this idea, and what do you think? Do you think it fits with what you guys are doing? And, I was really excited about it, and it definitely does. As Rob was just talking about the audience that it's intended for, Insurance Nerds has always been focused on trying to help young professionals build a career in the industry. And if we think about where the industry is going, you can look at carriers throughout the country are either setting up venture labs or innovation labs on their own, setting up their own VCs within the carrier. So if you're not taking the time to understand what InsurTech is moving towards and what opportunities are going to be available in that space, I think you're doing yourself a disservice in thinking about options for your career long term. So this book really fits very well for any young professional. Executives want to understand what's going on in the InsurTech space, and this is a great primer. Maybe on a short plane ride, you read half of it and finish it up on your round trip back. But spending time with the book will give you a quick overview on where everyone is working and how the pieces fit together. So we couldn't be more thrilled to be publishing a book for one of our favorite insurance nerds who's been on the podcast multiple times and supportive of us from the start. So we are really excited to be having made the announcement. We're taking pre-orders, and we're expecting it to be available December 4th to ship.
Can we get a link? And with the magic of video, I'm going to put my finger right there. So if someone tells me the link address, I can't even get it straight. Someone tells me the link address, I'm going to put the link address right above my finger.
So if you go to insnerds.com/end of insurance, you're going to find the option to set up your pre-order, and Tony will start shipping those as soon as we are able, with the target date of December 4th.
I'm gonna try to share my screen right now. Let's see if we can do it. And this is what it's gonna look like. Can you see it?
Yeah, so you can see the subtitle here. We're talking about millennials, InsurTech, and venture capital. These are all things that Insurance Nerds has been very interested in, and they're having a huge impact on the industry, and we're excited that Rob is capturing all of that for us.
And just to follow up on Carly's point, the first INS Nerds book was Insuring Tomorrow, which Carly co-authored with Tony, and it really talks about millennials in our industry and having a talent management strategy and how important that is for your company, and how millennials are different from their generation. And we know even Gen Z now is starting to kind of work into the workforce. And so it really touches on both previous books, the Insuring Tomorrow, as well as the When Words Collide, applied towards this kind of concept of technology and where we're going. So it absolutely fit into a very nice box set of insurance nerds books that may be on your bookshelf.
A box set. I love that. I always mute myself. That's a great idea, Rob. I'm for we've had other insurance nerds reach out to us for potentially writing books. Could you just spend a couple minutes and talk about the process that you went through, and of course why you would recommend insurance nerds to publish your one of our fans' books?
Absolutely, Nick. It's been the first time I've ever written a book. I do have written several articles for publications, and I'm very active on social media, particularly LinkedIn, and putting some items out there on my own. But writing a book, of course, is a whole different animal. And one of the reasons that I approached Insurance Nerds was knowing Carly personally and hearing some of her experiences going through the book writing process herself before editing Bill's book. I just felt like she brought kind of a unique perspective to the process, and it's somebody that could really help me along the way as a first-time author. One of the things that when Carly and I first met, she really emphasized was having a plan for the book and really putting together a very detailed outline. So when I worked on the structure of the book, what I wanted to say, what I was planning to cover, I made an outline that actually ended up totaling 65 pages by itself. So once I was able to do that and share it with Carly and kind of walk through the process, I think we both kind of felt like there's a lot of good content here, and definitely had the possibility of being a book. And so kind of got the green light to go ahead and draft it. And I have to make a huge shout out to my friend MC Razaire, who authored, kind of edited really the first draft of all the books. And she is the very type of person that you would want to be your editing your draft. No holds barred. I called her my wet blanket of reason, just holding me accountable as an author, telling me where things weren't clear, where I kind of needed to add something or something that's duplicative and take it away. So the content,
she's been invaluable. We're lucky.
It made huge to kind of have her take a first pass, and then once MC was done with it, having kind of Carly's critical eye looking at it as well. And Carly did a great job of kind of balancing some of the feedback that MC gave me that was, again, very, very valuable and insightful, without making sure that kind of my voice as an author was still maintained throughout the process. And we worked tremendously as a team, kind of had weekly calls. We did everything in Google Drive. We had a schedule, and we did a pretty good job of sticking on a schedule. If we were fell behind, or we had some trade-offs, and we're really good at proactively communicating. So really writing a book, my name is on there as the author, but it's a team effort, absolutely. And I can't imagine a better experience than working with insurance nerds, particularly if you're a first-time author, that this is a new process for you. They make the experience so easy and comfortable, and have that right balance between having you find your voice as the author, but at the same time, kind of guiding it into a book that others would want to read, and obviously have a huge following. That great sound, place to start with from a marketing perspective of trying to finding an audience for what you're trying to put out there and share with the wider community.
Yep. Awesome. December 4th?
That's the hope. Absolutely.
December 4th. I'm gonna put my finger back up in the air. insnerds.com/end-of-insurance. That's where you can get the book, pre-order. We'll be announcing everything else shortly. And I'd like to get MC Razaire on for like a launch party. We can do this again, kind of get the band back together and do another recording. So, Rob, I mean, I'm ecstatic. Carly, I know you feel the same way. We're so proud to be able to do this with you.
Very happy. Thank you, Rob.
No, thank you both so much for tremendous support. Nick, you've been just, my biggest cheerleader along the way every time I see you, and you're always just telling me how great it is, and how excited you are, and where it can go from here. And you talk to so many people in the industry and have such a pulse, both from your professional role and kind of your broad network. So I appreciate the support that both of you, and of course Tony's been great in terms of helping with the cover design. Taryn Haas is somebody I need to mention as well. So she was instrumental in helping us get a beautiful design for the cover that kind of fits with the other Insurance Nerds books. So shout out to my girl Taryn, who's tremendous as well.
Yeah, we have a great team, and this is, from our conversation that we had this weekend, my takeaway is, a lot of authors write books and they just sort of stop. And I just feel like what you describe and what you're describing in your book is a phenomenon. And the book itself is the starting point, but I think there's going to be more material that comes in after, because I just think the book by itself kind of gets you going, but there's a lot more Rob Galbraith that the world needs. So Insurance Nerds is going to be very proud, continuously making sure that what's in here gets out there.
Thank you for that. And again, as I mentioned, it's really intended to start a conversation. So I think it could go in so many different directions. I really look forward to the reader feedback, good, bad, or ugly. I'm sure everyone's going to have some thoughts about this book. And I can't wait to get the conversation going.
Carly, thank you for your hard work on this. I'm proud to be producing this with you. And Rob, thanks for coming on and announcing the book and allowing Insurance Nerds the opportunity to share your insight and wisdom with the rest of the world. So with that,
thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Take care, everyone. Carly, Rob, thank you, everyone. Again, I'll put my finger up in the air. In insnerds.com, End of Insurance. Go pre-order. This will be a great Christmas present. If you're a C-level executive, you have to order this for your entire board and your entire management team, maybe your whole company. So until next time, Rob, Carly, thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Bye, everyone.